Welcome back to another episode of More Than Music with your host Andrew Cazer, the owner and editor of Upstate Aesthetic. More Than Music is an interview series put together for Black Hills State University and Upstate Aesthetic to help myself and the listeners get to know some of the unique and incredible artists from Upstate New York. This week we're joined by Kory Alexander, an artist from Upstate New York who has made his way all the way to Los Angeles, California. Kory, how you doing, my friend?
I am good. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm good, man.
This wonderful Tuesday. Tuesday's my favorite day.
Yeah. I don't actually have a preference in days, but I'm doing good, man. I'm chilling. I'm actually very excited to have this conversation with you. I've known of Kory for a couple of months now only, which is very interesting to me because I'm very into your music and very, somewhat of a fan, you would definitely say. But it all came sort of abruptly, and it's an interesting story based upon the fact that we discovered you for the Cypher podcast. Right as you were moving to LA, it all became an interesting friendship that came out of nowhere, and we've actually never talked for real, so that's why I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, this is dope. I'm excited to have this conversation. I think that this conversation I'm happy that you're doing this. I think this will be something that people will look at later. I really do.
Yeah,
I like the stuff that you're doing, and this is cool.
I agree. I think that's honestly a really good point, that it will definitely be something that people can look back on. And it's something I think that will really give people from upstate an opportunity. And honestly, it's kind of a selfish thing. It gives me an opportunity to really get to know a lot of you people, like a lot of you artists that I work with, but I haven't actually gotten a chance to sit down and have a conversation with or get to know you guys for real beyond what projects you're working on or whatever. So I think it's really cool for me as well. Not just the listeners. So a big part of More Than Music is getting to know people, and we want to get to know you, Kory, get to know a little bit more about who you are. So maybe just how old you are, where you're currently living, the genre of music you make, that type of stuff.
I am 24 years old. I live in Los Angeles, California. I make music for people in the midst of their midlife crisis. We're trying to figure out exactly what the fuck they got going, exactly what they got going on, and we're trying to figure it out. It's like, ooh, I have dreams still. Ooh, but life is smacking me in my face a little bit. So it's it's a really interesting, I think, time to navigate.
Yeah. I like the way you try to narrow that down, because honestly, narrowing down your genre would be kind of hard, because I think a lot of times when we've discussed your music on the Cypher, we've said that it's maybe R&B but also a lot of rap and hip-hop elements to it. So it's hard to narrow it down, because it does have a blending of genres for sure.
Well, the hip-hop people don't think I make hip-hop, but they like what I do. That's what I've found. So I get rappers. Rappers have a little bit of respect, I think, but they definitely don't think it's hip hop. I have heard that from one or two people who are like rappy rappers. They're more they're more of those guys. I definitely I like pop music. I think I have generally poppy ears. I like making okay. I really what's that Blackpink and Selena Gomez song? That song is my guilty pleasure right now. Ice Cream, that shit is popping. I'm it's just a bunch of, hot ladies running around looking great and just having this really fun song. So I love stuff like that.
Right.
As much as if not more than actually, no, I like shit like that more than I like top usually rap. I'm more apt to the pop song than I am to the rap record.
It makes
for the most
sense,
part.
and honestly,
at least on the current landscape.
And you could hear that in your music, but at the same time, it's cool that you could still see the elements of hip-hop in your music. You could tell you might prefer pop, but I could also tell that you definitely listen to hip-hop. You know what I mean?
Oh, most certainly. Oh, yeah. No question. So, I respect the lyricism of hip-hop. People who have, who's really, I love J. Cole. I think he's terribly, terribly consistent. I think Big Sean is super underrated, and no one has more puns than he does. Like he's impressive with it. I don't know. I like hip hop.
Yeah, I
I
feel
like
that.
certain I like hip hop. I do.
Outside of music, what are your interests? What's your go-to thing?
Oh, what's my go-to thing? That's okay. So like a lot of my life is really all kind of tied into like music things. So most of the things that I do uh, have to do with music. I guess since like okay, nothing to do with music. I've since moving to LA, I like bike riding and I like longboarding.
Nice.
It's really nice out, so it's like and it's like relatively like it's like it's like flat and it's pretty flat around here. So like I like that. Uh, I like going to the beach. I've picked up like camping also since coming out here, so I've got like a bunch of camping gear and I got my tent in my trunk and shit like that. But like I spend a lot of time doing like video stuff. So like even if I'm not doing video stuff for myself, which I spend a lot of time doing, um, I'll spend a lot of time like doing that with other people or like watching music videos, looking to see how other people like do their thing. I also listen to a lot of music. I'm pretty boring.
Nah, that's actually really cool. The video part, especially because like, is that something that has changed for you since you've moved to LA, where you're able to shoot more and do more of that, or is it just sort of consistently been the same amount of workload for you?
I moved to Los Angeles at the top of the coronavirus pandemic, like right at the top of it. Like I was driving across the country when California issued a stay at home and everyone was like, "What the fuck is a stay at home? What does that even mean?" Um, like I was in the middle of my trip, like, and then like New York had issued a stay at home order, and I still was in California, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" Um, so so doing that, moving here at the top of that has made doing some creative things a little difficult. Not all of them, but some things. Um, like it's hard. Like I would love to be going to like a lot of dance classes and stuff. But like that's not really a thing as much. Like there were dance classes every night, multiple options at multiple different places all over LA. Most of those are closed. They're indoor spaces. Um, I actually am going to a dance thing tonight. Um, at it's outdoors, so that'll be interesting. I'm gonna go do that. But it's so like I can go network and meet other dancers and you know because I want to start bringing new elements to my visuals.
Right.
So because it's like I do a lot. Like I usually have a friend or a stranger, someone who doesn't really know how to edit, someone how to work a camera, shooting my music videos, and I edit them. And I'm kind of like telling them what to do, like behind it, kind of like
Right.
do this point, back up, come closer, angle up, shit like that. Um, while behind the camera, so it's hard to make stuff seem a little different. So after after you have a couple videos, it's like okay, well, how do you bring new elements to the game? So I'm trying to do like dancing and choreography and shit like that. Yeah, so, yeah. I don't know if I kind of might have ran off on a tangent.
Nah, that's cool, man. You mentioned though, like obviously moving out there in the middle of the pandemic. Kind of how has that been for you? Has it been like was it difficult in the beginning to even find like your living situation? Did you have that all squared away before you got out there?
I moved out to LA with $1,500 and I needed new tires on my car. Like I needed new tires on my car. Like I couldn't pass an inspection. Um, and I was
It's
like,
not
okay,
funny, but it
it's no,
seems the fact that you're laughing now, it's sort of at least it sounds like it's cleared up a little bit.
yeah. Well, it's been about 6 months or so, and so like when I moved out there, so I needed new tires on my car, and it was right at the top of the pandemic, and I was calling around trying to buy some used tires. I only had $1,500, so I'm like, I can spend $250 on some used tires. And all of these tires are sold out. I can't find used tires anywhere. I'm like there was no toilet paper. There were no used tires. Um, so I, was, so I was like, do I spend? I couldn't get a quote for new tires that was under like 425. So I was like, if I spend $400 of my 1,500, or do I just drive like slowly? so, so slowly I went. And, and we got so I moved out here with two friends from Albany, and we didn't have a place. We didn't have a place. I had we booked an Airbnb, so the three of us were staying in a trailer, like a trailer.
Oh wow.
Because we were all servers and bartenders at the top of the pandemic. We all got laid off,
Right.
and there was like we had been planning to move before that moment. So it was like, well, if shit really hits the fan, we could just all go get jobs as like servers or waiters, like go bartend something, um, whatever. But there was like the restaurants were all closed with no like foreseeable time of opening back up. So we got a trailer because that was like inexpensive. So it was the three of us crammed in a trailer. We had been living in the car, like driving across the country for 5 days. Um, when we got here, um, we were like looking around, and we had all these like places, like we had all these appointments with the realtors or whatever, and they were none of them were really panning out. And so like the last day, we only had a thing for a week. It was like day 6, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go find a place. So we went out, and I was driving around, and I was like looking for apartments with like numbers. I was calling, trying to get a place. Um, and I saw a place that day, and we signed a lease the next day, and we found a place in LA in
That
6 days.
that's crazy. Did you have a plan if you didn't? Like what was your guys' was there just no option besides finding something that day or what?
We would have just gotten I guess another Airbnb, but remember I only had $1,500.
Yeah.
So after driving across the country, that was probably like $200 in gas, and then maybe like yeah, probably about $200 in gas. So then 250. So like, and then the Airbnb was maybe like 350 for the week. So like $80 of that. 90, like it was, I was
Yeah,
eating
you were
into my
cutting
budget,
it
and
close.
I
Yeah.
was cutting it really. Oh no, I still had to borrow like $500 from my brother to make it happen.
Shit, shout out to your
Um,
brother for making it
shout out
happen though. Fuck.
shout out to my brother. But then Corona really kicked in, and the government decided to pay me to stay home.
Fortunately for that shit too, man, because
Yeah.
that would have been a whole nother story, and it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Because I work in the restaurant industry too, so I know that you kind of
Hmm.
you have a thought process that anywhere you go, you could have a job until a pandemic hits, and
Until
all
you
of a
really
sudden
don't.
you
Yeah.
don't, and it's kind of crazy the way that worked out. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that shit seemed to turn around. The government definitely helped out at least for the time being.
That's the sprinkle version of the story. That some time has elapsed, and we can remove
Yeah,
some of the stressing
take away
moments.
some of the
But
pain from it. I
take
imagine
away, yeah, yeah, yeah.
at the time it probably was not nearly as laughable, not nearly as fun to discuss. But
This is my Madonna moving to New York with $90 in her pocket. I did it. That's my
yeah,
adjust for inflation and
that
go. I did it. That's my story.
and that's kind of the crazy part too is the fact that you're in LA now, but you started out in New York. Can you want to
Yes.
touch on that a little bit, like what growing up was like in New York and just that whole like
Well, I grew up in Syracuse, and I graduated high school uh, in Yonkers, and then went to U Albany. So I'm definitely an upstate person. Um, and upstate was cool because it was a really there's a lot of talented people. I found that there was a lot of talented musicians, particularly in the Albany area. There was a lot of talent. I think St. Rose plays a role in that actually. U Albany has a decent music program, but St. Rose particularly, I think, brings quite an influx. That paired with there's a lot of places to play live. There's a lot of bars, and there's a lot of clubs, and there's a lot of like venues of all different sizes in that city. 1,000 people, 10 people, lots of and 7 or 8 options between those. And then I guess if no, I mean like how many people could you put at Upstate Concert Hall? Like 1,000 people. And then in Times Union you could put like 5,000. So like yeah, like there was a solid amount of like options and scheme. And then like in the summer there was all those festivals, so you'd be playing for who knows how many people if you're playing for like uh any of those fucking fests that they have
Right.
over the yeah. So it was a decent place for like music and musicians. Um, it was also inexpensive, so I do all my music and recording in house. Um, and my mixing guys are all like my friends, and my videos I cut them all in house. Like I'm big on doing things myself, but that requires equipment, and good equipment requires money. Um, and you can't do that if you're spending all your money on rent.
Right.
So living in Albany was a good place to spend $375 a month on your rent and have like a decent place to live, and
Right.
like have two roommates and spend 450 whatever cheap fucking rent. Um, because now out here rent is not that cost, and so like but I have my equipment, so
Yeah.
I don't I'm not trying to like save up for shit. So at least not really. But like as far as
Right.
equipment goes, like I pretty much I have most of the things that I need to do, the things that I need to do. If I can't do it with the shit I have, I'm not trying hard
Right.
enough.
So there was just a lot of opportunity in New York, at least where you were located, in terms of like performing and getting to work with other people, network with other people, and stuff like that.
It's easy to get your foot in the door in upstate New York's music scene. Yes, it is. It's not that hard. All you really have to do is be like, hey, what's up? Literally,
Right.
and someone will at least give you a shot. There's a lot of like, I mean, with that there's a lot of garbage, but like
Yeah.
there's a lot of there is a lot of talent in upstate New York. I can think of a couple people. Uh,
Was it interesting to get hit up by Sheridan, someone from upstate New York that was in LA, and be able to like work with someone that was sort of local to you but halfway or all the way across the country?
well, Sheridan was like the first person, like a kind of Sheridan and Dora were like the two first people I really met. Um, that weren't my roommates when I got here.
Right.
And that was and I maybe met them in like maybe like a month later. Um, and we got together. It was cool. We were smoking, we were hanging out, and we were like, hey, like they had this record that they had been working on, and I thought, wow, that's very loud. Like I was like as far as like the actually like the the master.
Right.
I was like that is a hot master. Like that is loud. Like the loud it's kind of supposed to be. Like that's like it's hard to like it's like a less stumbled across. Usually like when you all are reviewing music, you talk about like the mastering and like that final product and being like this is not this isn't right.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm like watching and I'm like I'll be like man, the finish on that is not it. So the it's not quite enough. It sounds like a bad demo. But not a great demo. No shade, but I guess shade. That's really you guys review lots of music. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. The so it was really loud. So I was like, who mastered that? And he was like, oh, the guy who made the beat is the guy who mastered it. I was like, what's his name? So I now I work with Cosmo. Um, but we got together and we shot that. We made the record. We shot it pretty quickly, and then we got together and shot a video. And we did these over maybe like we like met the first time, maybe like cut the record the second time and shot the video the third time. It was something like that. Like
That's
we
so
haven't hung
cool,
out many times.
honestly. That like, and it's to me, it's really cool to see how that all works out, and then like to hear that you're working with Cosmo and stuff. Like, it's very crazy that you moved to LA and those upstate ties are kind of what helped open the door out there for you, and it's probably not something you really expect to happen, you know?
I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. Yes, Cosmos in Atlanta, and so everyone's like separate. But the way I kind of like work music has always been a little separated.
Right.
Um, so like right now, like Mike Mitch, who is mixing, and and a collaborator of mine, he's in New York City. Uh, Cosmo, who's mastering the project, is in Atlanta. Beatcoin, who's doing a lot of the beats for it, he's in Seoul, South
Hmm.
Korea.
Wow.
and the other uh, Dylan Graham's in Atlanta, and no, no, he's in Orlando. I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure he's in Orlando, and it's just and Brian B Chaps, he did a couple of beats on this project too, and he's in Albany. So like, there's it's a global process. And Corona didn't really. It was kind of like that before coronavirus. It wasn't really. It was like that. Like this project was moving before everything happened. So like it's made working digitally and like like easier.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's interesting. Like for creators and musicians, I think that working remotely was something we were all doing before the pandemic, and was something that was pretty common
Yes.
among musicians, especially. But now that a pandemic has happened, it's kind of opened everyone else's eyes to what is going on, and made it a lot easier to just get them to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone kind of knows about Zoom or Skype or video conferencing and stuff like that now.
Yeah.
As opposed to before 2020, it was a little bit more foreign. So I think people like us have been doing it for a long time, but it's nice because it's other people are used to it now, so it's very.
And it's a little more mainstream. I feel like it's getting better. Like I'm like the quality's getting better. Like I'm I'm like, oh, this is great. Like look at you guys making video chatting better. Like this needed to be better. I'm happy.
The technology of it is all better. It's all seamless. You can do more with it as like a team and stuff. So it's great.
Talk with 8 people and or whatever.
Right.
And like I'm like that. Like that's a solid. Yeah.
And you mentioned the opportunity that was available in upstate New York. What, or for music and stuff, what introduced you to music to begin with? Has it just always been something that you've been fond of, or?
I've always been very fond of music. My grandfather had a very, very large album collection, and then also a very large CD collection, and still has quite a few CDs, definitely at least 1,000. I know I alphabetized them, and he fucking like he's like, so he played a big role, but music was always like played in my house. I come from more I'm kind of a logical thinker, so music wasn't really something that I thought of being like too like not logic, like it wasn't really when I was a kid, it wasn't really promoted as like a way to actually like survive. So like so I didn't decide like I could or would do music until I was probably like 18, when I was like, oh, I should do this. And I was in school at the time, but I was like, I want to do this. So I was like, I will graduate and I will do music, and that's what I've done.
That's cool, man, because I think everyone definitely has at least that one person who was their focal person. I think that they could think back to, like your grandpa who collected music. For me, it's my dad. He's a DJ. Like that. That's what really introduced me into taking that next step, or just like not doing what I do, but introduced me to music. And then it took years later for me to get into what I do now. But it's like without that piece of the puzzle, the rest of it never would have come together. You know what I mean? So it's cool to hear that. And like, it's very interesting also to hear that you only started making music when you're 18, because like
okay, I guess that's when I that's when I decided like I will do this, and I will put like time and energy into it. That's better. I'm sorry. I probably wrote my first song when I was like 13, 14 years old. They aren't terrible.
Right.
so they aren't terrible. And then I like was, so then like I started writing like more around like 70. I was like, I want to do this. I was like, I like doing this. I met a friend, Alec Lewis, and we were doing this production in school. It was Spring Awakening, and he was Melchior, and I was we were the leads. He was the lead. I was the like next lead. Whatever. It was a good show, but we were so singing, dancing, we got kind of close. He showed me. He one day was like, "Oh, I want to show you something," and he showed me a record. He showed me a song that he like made. It was him, and it was like, and I was like, and it was like he had like played the instruments and he had done all these layers, and I was like, "Where did you record it?" He was like, "In my room." And I was like, "What?" And then he like took me to then he showed me his like home studio. So this was in like 2013. So like he showed me like this his home studio and like all of this, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I kind of, when I see someone else doing something, I'm like, oh, I can do it if I want to do it. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. So I got like I asked my grandparents for like a microphone, a cheap mic, and like a Personas audio box, like type shit, and started fucking around with and stole a Logic Pro, and then started fucking like and started fucking around trying to like make records.
Shout out to grandparents too, dude, because fucking
Oh, they're the best.
it was my grandparents who sent me out money when I was younger to try and like record and produce and make music in a studio for the first time in New York, like a long time ago. So
That's cool.
I can relate to that too, especially like my grandparents just always had my back no matter what it was, trying to do the music thing, and they continue to throughout all this.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
dope.
yeah. It is. It is. It is. My grandparents are, yeah. Grandparents are the best. Grandparents are the best. Parents are cool, but grandparents are
Yeah,
fire.
exactly. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, grandparents are fire. Fire as fuck. Um, yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit about where you're at now, though. You've talked about the process of getting to LA and all that, and we talked
hmm
about you growing up in New York. What's going on now? What's new now? Now that the pandemic started to subside a little bit, you got a little bit more going on for you, or what?
Well, I had a couple things I wanted to do this year. One was move to Los Angeles. The other was get this album out. So I've been for like the last. I've never recorded a full length album because it's a lot to think about.
Right,
An EP, the 3, 4, 5 songs is like enough to think about. Like if you have nothing and need to make an EP, like that's a lot to think about. Like, when you're in the process, you're like, oh, what is it? How's this mix and how's this master and how's this and where's this artwork and where's the,
right,
an album is like that on crack. So, and then they're also expensive to make. So, like
right.
an EP, you make 3 songs, you buy a couple beats, maybe that's like $300, maybe 400, $500, even, whatever. But like it relatively inexpensive. An album, you need 12 beats, you need to
Yeah.
master 12 songs, you need 12 mixes. That's a lot. It's a lot. So it was an undertaking. I wasn't really like, I was like, I don't really need to do this for a while. I usually, when I write songs, I kind of write them in about an album. I usually get about 10 that I like that are in the same, I don't know, realm. After, you write 25 and then whittle it down to the 10 you like. Those 10 like usually make up, could be a project. Um, but I just never like would go and record them all and mix them all and do the whole thing. So I got this album and it's almost done, and
Oh shit.
it'll be coming out. So I'm excited.
That's exciting, man. And how has that process been? Has it been difficult in terms of like actually narrowing down the tracks from the 25 to the 10, like you said? Eh,
I mean, I knew what the project would. I knew that the project would be about. I got the name for it about a year ago, actually, and I was arguing with someone I was like seeing, and they were like, Kory, everything's not so complicated, and I was like, actually, it fucking is. Actually, something it's actually quite a bit more complicated than whatever energy you're putting into this. It is more complicated than that. Um, and so the album is called Complicated. And it's this time in your life where everything is so uh, loud and everything is so like there's so much going on, and all I feel like all the decisions you make, you're like I'm really making like life choice paths decisions, like boom, I have okay, like from who you associate with to who you see next, or what your next plans are, where you live, who you work, are you people are people are having children, and people are buying houses, and like these are all these things that are going on at that like 24, like 27, 30 range or so. So that's like where like, or even even like a little even like a little earlier and a little later than that. um it's like it's an interesting time
no,
to
that's
be able.
interesting, and it sounds like it's gonna be a really, oh shit, sounds like it's gonna be a really interesting and and great project, honestly, especially because of everything that's going on right now. Like, it's kind of hard for life to not be complicated for people in general. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like, with the
Hmm.
pandemic and what's going on, like, I'm sure shit has been complicated. Like, you said it sort of started a year ago, but since then, in the past year, things have gotten quite a bit more complicated for you.
Ooh,
Uh,
quite a bit.
so I'm looking forward to that. That's interesting.
Yeah. I make music. It's so interesting that you called me today because I can't wait to listen to this. Like all of the audio from this, like I do want it. Because the this is almost like I've been working on like the social media and the networking and the like this is all of that. This is literally all of those things. Like worked up in one. I literally have been reading a book on it. And I'm like, so this phone call, like I started that book today, like this phone call that this is just
Perfect
very
timing,
funny,
right? Yeah.
amazing timing. I'm like, wow, interesting. It's
Is
incredibly
it is it difficult? Because I'm sure that's something a lot of artists locally relate to, and I can vouch for that because not a whole lot of artists really reach out to me in terms of doing the whole social media thing or promoting what they've got going on. Is that something that you find to be a lot more difficult than making the music itself?
well, they're kind of different beasts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I've spent years actually perfecting how I make music
Right.
and how like where my voice works and how I write songs. And now I spent a couple years also working on like how I like to present myself visually, via photo, via video, whatever the fuck. I have spent very little time on my social
You say
media
whatever
presence.
the fuck, but your music videos, bro, and shit like that it's all so professionally well done that like you shouldn't just easily brush it off because honestly, like that when I watch your videos and stuff, there are so few and you have such little information out there about yourself that
Hmm.
what is available is all super quality, 100% like as good as it can get. That when people see it, the only thing you can really say is why haven't more people seen this? Why haven't more people heard this? So
I really I appreciate that a lot. I I'm trying to not make things that are garbage. I have um
fair enough.
relatively high standards. It's not like so I because I'm not very good at social media, and I find that social media is like something that is um like it's like a double-edged sword. Like if you do well at social media, like it or like a hooked sword, like it's hard to like not get cut. Cause so like if you're good at social media, like you uh, you post something that's good or that is well made by your estimation by whoever the fuck's estimation, um and it gets no response, it doesn't get the right response on social media, that makes you think that the things you are making aren't good.
Right.
And that can be disheartening, discouraging, particularly when you're trying, when you're
Yeah.
when you're giving it some effort. But on the other hand, if you can figure out social media and you can post like there are people who like can't make content. So like right now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading this book, and it's about social media and about followings and about how you market yourself or things of this nature, and like how like fuck me, I'm losing my train of thought because I am not a great speaker. But like how you present yourself, and like you can figure there are people who have figured out this piece and haven't figured out how to create stuff. So
Right.
like people who have figured out like I'm someone who's relatively figured out content creation, and I mean I have miles of room to improve and get better, but
Right.
like content creation is something for the most part I can make something relatively quickly with relatively little budget, um but I haven't figured out social media, so like it's kind of like a I spent time doing the one thing and now I need to actually work on the other half of it, like
Right.
so I'm resorting to like old school. I have bought a few books. I'm reading. I have highlighters. I'm annotating. I'm like, okay,
Well,
what have you
and
do?
honestly, like that, you're doing a lot more than some people who, and a lot of people suffer from the same issue, and it's very interesting to hear it from your perspective because again, like I said, I'm very much a fan of your music, so pretty much everything you put out I like.
Oh,
But so it's like it's interesting to hear that thought process of like of the negatives that come in because people aren't reacting to it or you're not getting the traction on social media that you would expect because like I said it's all so good that to me it's just good. I don't really see how there could be a negative thought in your head, but at the same time because there's no reaction or no traction there, that's where the negativity arises from. Like it doesn't even have to
like
be
full
people.
speed, like a train, like
Yeah.
boom, like oh I like this, but fuck, what no one actually did. Fuck. Huh. Well, this is well. Then you start, you're like, well, this was a lot of time. This was a lot of effort.
Yeah.
This was a lot of money. This was depending on the project and the budget and the money and but so
And with
it
no
can be
reaction,
exhausting.
well, when you have no reaction, you're just left to sort of figure it out yourself because people aren't even commenting saying, "Oh, this sucks. Fix this part." It's just
Mhm.
it's pure silence. So you're just waiting and trying to figure it out yourself, which is almost a bigger issue because when you're trying to figure out the problem yourself to your own creativity, you just run in
Yeah.
circles. You know what I mean? Because
That's why I have now gone into like there are people who go to school for social media, and as they fucking should. This is quite a booming business that's going nowhere. So like how you like how to optimize analytics and how to even like go about any of these processes from like jump. Like what does it cost? What does it do? Like one of the things I read in this book, it was like, do not think that there's a this misconception of promotion and how running a Facebook ad is not buying streams. You put things in front of someone's face. If they click on it, they click on it. If they they can't make them click on it. So like this idea of well, so there are some things I need to throw away that the mentalities that are not working. And it's like how what does it cost? Like what does so it's like you gotta pay to play, but and I don't like that expression, but it's
no,
fucking
it's
true.
really I was gonna say it's really true, and
It's
to a
true.
lot of the aspect of it. Like a lot of people will say that you're making the music and putting the budget behind making the music is really only half of what you should be putting your budget behind. The other half should be behind promoting it and getting it on
Literally.
playlists or getting it doing promoted ads and stuff like that. And in
Yep.
theory, people call it buying streams and stuff. And I get that thought process to an extent, but really it's like you have to play that game first in order to even really get your name out there.
And Taylor Swift is promoting sponsors. Miguel is promoting sponsored posts.
Hmm.
Travis Scott is promoting sponsored posts. I've seen them all. So like it's not Dua Lipa. Like it's not buying streams. It is a part of the business.
Yeah.
It is a new business at that. It is not an old one. So like
It's just a new part of the process, really.
of a process that is only in its infancy. Recorded music is only 70 years old. So like yeah, if recorded like and streaming is only like 10. So
Yeah.
in like not even 10. Streaming's like about 10, yeah, it's about 10 years old. So like these are new concepts, and how to make them work and how to play this game is all like being mavericks
Yeah, well,
right
yeah,
now.
it's all evolving. You know what I mean? It changes every day, and the way people go about it has to change. So that's why it's good that you're doing the old school method of like reading a book or whatever people need to do in order to like change stuff up and do stuff different. Because if you're doing it the same way you were doing it in 2013, it's not gonna work. It's a whole new
Exactly.
world now. So
Exactly. Even if it was successful for you in 2013, does not mean it will work
yeah,
now.
no doubt.
I completely agree. So that's why, like, this album's coming out on my 25th birthday. Do you know the album B-Day
No,
by Beyonce?
no.
Okay, so it's an amazing album. I don't not the extended version. The extended version has some shit on there that I don't like, but the the album, the B-Day album. Um, it came out when I was maybe about, when did that come out? 2006. So I was born in 1996. 10. I was 10. And when the album came out, I was like, it was like I had recently like become a Beyonce fan, like solidified. I was only 10, so like, but I had solidified that the chick from Crazy in Love and the chick from Lose My Breath, and these were all the same person. I was like, oh, so I like her. um, so the B-Day, and the album was called B-Day, Beyonce, and it came out on her 25th birthday. And that album meant a lot to me in my like fandom of music, and now Beyonce is like Queen Bee, and everyone's like, all hail. Like I've been on the team since way before that. And so putting out an album on my 25th birthday is always something that I wanted to do. I originally wanted to release Complicated last year and drop one for my 25th birthday. But it was taking me more time than I thought to create a full-length album.
Right.
Where I gave myself, I was like, oh, I can get this done in like 10 months. And like, I couldn't. I could not. It was a lot to think about, and I like visuals and stuff. So I was like, let me push this back. So I did, to give, and then I was like, okay, I guess this will be my 25th birthday album, because I'll have it done in time to like what I think is avidly promoted, or some idea of that, and dive into it. So this is quite a little passion project for me.
Is it gonna have any of the tracks that you've already released on it? Is it just gonna be all brand new material?
Okay, Wish Us Luck will be on it.
Okay.
And Wish Us Luck will be on it. Reckon is on it.
Reckon is on it.
Reckon is on it.
Cool.
Wish Us Luck is on it. Reckon is on it.
Earlier you mentioned narrowing it down to 10. Is that how long the project is gonna be? 10 tracks, or?
I have. So I've been in the studio. Like, I haven't released a project since July of 2018.
Right.
So like, it's actually been. Well, I mean, I dropped a little EP earlier this year with Wish Us Luck, and that's how we met. So happy I did that. But but like I like the album was getting kind of long, so I slashed the love songs off of it and put those on an EP and dropped that. I was like, it's been a while since I dropped anything. I'll do a little love song, leftover love, whatever. And so, but I probably have about like, I'm sitting here looking at this list right now. I think there's 12 tracks on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12. And then underneath that is like another like 15. But I'm like, some of them are done, a lot of them are cool. So I'm like, maybe maybe if I could get us, maybe I'll cut an extra one this week. It'll get on there. We'll see.
I'm saying, man, you could slide me any of those tracks you got no plans for, and I'll just sit on them. That's all.
I've got some cool ones, I don't like to make stuff that sucks. Where like, even if you don't like the song, like hopefully you can like at least like respect the production,
right?
Or the like, even if you're like, this isn't really my favorite genre. Like, that's me all the time. I'm like, I don't really like this country song. I don't really like Lady Antebellum, but she sounds okay. Like, I was like, Kelly Clarkson isn't my favorite person, but she can sing. Like, like that's like,
right.
I want to make projects where even if the genre doesn't fit, it's still likable. And I was trying to make an album full of songs that like you don't want to skip.
Right. Well, 12 songs, bro. That ain't too hard, honestly. Like, it's tough because a lot of times my argument for a lot of upstate artists is that their projects are too long. And then I get to talking to artists that I like, and I'm like, well, I would love to hear a 20-track project from you, because so it does become a little complicated. But 12 songs is honestly like a really comfortable length, I think.
I think that 20 songs is too long. I think after a certain point, you're just like taking like stabs at the dark. So
yeah, especially for like local artists, especially I think.
I mean, I think like these big rappers are the people who do it the most often, and I mean and I mean this with like no disrespect to Drake, but if you
Hmm.
put 22 tracks on your album and you're Drake, well, there are some people who are going to listen to all of them, and they're
Yeah.
just going to push the good ones up to the top, and all
Hmm.
of the all of the other ones will just sit at the bottom.
That's kind of where that's where my point is, I guess, with saying like local artists should do more like EPs, kind of like what you did, because it gives the listener a lot less to consume. That it's not as big of a task. When it's
Yeah,
Drake,
10
people
minutes.
when it's
Yeah,
Drake, people are gonna put in that time and listen to all those tracks in the stream. It actually makes some sense for streaming numbers. When you're
okay.
an artist
Oh yeah,
who's
I
not
didn't even
super
think
well
about that.
known, when you're an
Yeah.
artist who's not super well known, I don't think it really impacts your numbers at all, because the general listener is not going to listen to your whole project. If they don't like the first couple tracks, they're going to be out. So I think it makes more sense to go shorter as a smaller scale artist. And honestly, that even goes for a lot of like the major artists who are dropping those
Yeah.
20-song projects. I don't think it's helping them, but
No.
I understand the business side of it.
It will definitely. I didn't think about when you mentioned the streaming numbers. I was like, oh yeah, that does actually help because when you get people who listen to them all, like that actually will make quite a few. That will make a difference.
Hmm.
Particularly in this, in these streaming wars or whatever we want to call them.
Right.
Um, but growing up, I always thought that an album had like 10 to 12 songs. Whenever an album had less than 10 songs, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
Um,
Bummed
and
out,
I,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and whenever an album, all the long albums I've listened to, they're always, it's like you could have really just skipped half, you could have literally waxed half of these and no one would have given a fuck. No, they're not good. They
Yeah.
don't stand. So I'm not big on filler. What I like about B-Day, the original, not the deluxe one, is that it was just like I was like, these are all fucking bops. Like it made sense. That album makes sense. It was like she put all the best songs on that album, and then she put some extra ones on the deluxe one, which are like these are some extra ones. Um, some of which were were good, but that album just like was that core album was just like great songs. You can listen to the whole thing, and that's what I was really trying to make. Um, but like you were saying about listening to an album, I wanted to I'm sitting here looking at this track list, and so it's like the question is, do you front load it or do you tell the story?
Right. Well, I was gonna ask you that. Is it like a super cohesive album with like that type of thing where you're trying to tell a story, or is it you kind of mentioned that it's a lot of like really bangers too? So what?
So like me, I like. All right. I think that this period of time, this period of life is very complicated. There's lots of ways to feel. If I wanted to do a 15-track album, Turbulence and Like I Do would also be on this album because they fit in the general like it's complicated.
Right.
Locked is on this album. Locked will be on this. The studio version of Locked will be on this album.
Okay.
And so like trying to trying to tell a trying to tell like a project, trying to tell a co. I don't know if cohesive is the right word. I mean, it's a cohesive album. It's a cohesive sound. There's only two. There's pretty much two main beat makers, and then there's a couple from one other. So, like it. I think I need to spike my drink. It needs like to it's cohesive. It's not like I didn't do it through. I decided not to do like I like intros and outros and like I think that those are cool to listen to, but it was just another wrinkle in the process that I didn't have time to do. I was just like I
Right.
don't. This is unnecessary. I want you to hear the song. I still think I don't think it takes away from the cohesion of the product.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this should be good.
And you said it's coming on your 25th birthday. What date is that exactly, so people know?
Okay, so my birthday is January 9th, which is a Saturday,
Okay.
so I think the album will actually come out January 8th.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, that's what which is the Friday. That's what I'm thinking.
Fair
We'll
enough. I
see.
can't blame you for that one. I hope though. I hope January 9th. You've got a couple of months. That's enough time, I think.
Well, so my album needs to be in because of everything that I'm trying to do for it. It really needs to be done November 1st. So I
Right.
really have about like 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, um,
Fair enough.
because there's a lot of time off. when you're submitting things,
Yeah.
distributors, it's
Well,
like there's
yeah, and
2
I'm
weeks
sure
off
it
at
probably.
Christmas and
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
and Thanksgiving, so it's just like it's really it's like November 1st, November like
At
maybe like
least
3rd.
the fact that you have the forethought or just knowing that ahead of time though, because a lot of people wouldn't think about that shit ahead of time. They'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna drop it in January for my birthday. I've got until the end of December to get it done," and then would be mad as hell when they're done with it by the end of December, but can't actually get it distributed because of, you know what I mean? There are
Yeah, of course.
a lot of artists have run into that problem. It's something I've seen a lot where they're like, "It didn't upload on the day I thought it was gonna," and I'm like, "Man, I could have told you that was gonna happen." Like,
I'm just like I'm not into dropping things with no fanfare.
right?
Having just a little bit more forethought behind things helps.
You're
So like
telling me.
yeah, having just a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
helped. So um like wish it like so like that project I dropped is like my best streaming project, that one I just most recently dropped, which is cool.
Right.
Um because it because it but it was really like it was a short it was a short thing. I totally lost my train of thought, but it was like a short thing that was like put out. Um, what was the question?
On a
I'm
whim.
sorry.
You put that out on a whim, so you got the most. Where I'm guessing you're going with this is you got the most appreciation for that last little EP, but you didn't put as much time behind it. So if you put time behind this upcoming project, you're
Well, I put more time into like the release structure. So like
okay.
I put a little more time behind it versus my project before that. I'm sorry, I had lost my train of thought. My project before that I had dropped. I put a lot of promotion into like the creation of it.
Right.
Like I create like the creation was really like drawn out. I just like dropped it and was like, here's a really good project, and it didn't do the numbers that I wanted it to do. Versus these other songs that I kind of put together a bit faster.
Right.
Um,
And you
and
actually
they
dropped them ahead of the EP. Okay. I
yeah.
got
So
you.
there's little like it did a little bit. They did better. Um, and
Again,
so
it's cool to hear that you planned that because a lot of artists don't. They're not like, oh, I'm gonna drop this one ahead. Oh, I'm gonna drop this one ahead, and then drop the EP. It just kind of happens on accident. You know what I mean? So or it doesn't happen at all. Literally, those are the only two ways I really see a lot of promotion ahead of time is like it was an accident or they just drop an EP out of nowhere, and that's great as a consumer, but it's so much better honestly as a fan when you have an artist willing to put in that effort to make it a process for you too. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily just want to listen to the project. I want to get excited for the project, be hyped for it to come out. When it comes out, be rushing to go check it out. You know what I mean? So it's cool to have that.
yeah, finding fans is hard. Like okay, I have some questions for you.
All
All
right.
right, you like I have some questions for you actually. Okay, do you think do you prefer like projects? Do you prefer like EPs or singles? From
Uh,
art
like
from
a
an artist who
consumer.
makes things from a consumer's perspective, do you prefer albums or singles?
Uh, I probably prefer singles overall, but
Yeah.
I have a really big theory that I think EPs are something that people should do a lot more right now with streaming and the way stuff works. Like I think that if I like your music, just the single isn't enough for me. So 3 tracks is like plenty. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But I
Okay.
think that uh, like an EP works. An EP works really well, I think. I just don't think people are used to it. You know what I mean? They're used to either
Sure.
getting a single or a project. EPs aren't so much the norm these days, but I think it's something that more artists should capitalize on because I think it can be hard to put out 4 albums or even 2 albums in a year. But if you put out
Oh,
four
certainly.
EPs, if you put out 4 EPs, your fans are checking for you 4 times during the year. And especially if you're
Ah.
like an independent artist, you have more people looking for you during that time. Whereas if you put out one full album, they're only looking for you that one time, and then you either have to follow it up with another project, another single, or a video, 2 songs they've already heard. Whereas if it's an EP, they can get excited basically every quarter of the year, but you're doing the same amount of work as you would for an album. So,
I think that's very smart. Interesting. Okay, very cool. Um, when okay, how early like okay, you're excited for a new single that's coming out, right?
Right.
When did you hear about that single? You're excited about it today. When did you hear about it?
Oh, it could be like it all depends really, but I think that like promoting a single, even when like you're maybe not creating it, but like if you hear it ahead of time, you're automatically more excited when you hear it even 6 months down the road. You know what I mean? If you've heard it on a Snapchat story, an Instagram story, watched
Hmm.
somebody's just on their timeline or something, seen it, and you know like, oh, I was a part of the creation of that to an extent. You know what I mean? I remember when they
You were
put that
there.
snippet out. Then you just have more hype for it. I think that just a week or so, it is what it is. Like I think that kind of promo is kind of just like typical and doesn't really do much for a person like me at least. But I
Okay.
think that the natural promo of being like getting a snippet in the studio or something like that is a little bit more like I said, as a fan you feel like you're there, you feel like you're part of the process. So
So, so if I was announcing I had a new single coming out
mhm,
right now,
right.
when would be the most ideal time for it to be coming out if I said it right now? I was like, I have a new single coming out.
I don't know, cause
Tomorrow?
sometimes, yeah, that honestly, to me, that's what I would agree. If you're not gonna, if you're just gonna kind of, uh, I'd agree that like a surprise single is great. You know what I mean? Because you don't need a whole lot of hype for it, and it just varies. You know what I mean? But
Versus,
I do think that saying like if you're going to promote a single, when
yeah.
someone hears that, they would want to be able to look forward to it tomorrow because they have a short attention span. So they'll forget in a week or two unless there's consistently checking your Snapchat or whatever. So I think
Okay.
that it's like either right now or they want to have been a part of the process 3 months ago.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, all right. Sure.
And
Sure.
I honestly could be way off. Like
No,
I think
I'm just listening to. I'm asking about um your
my
I'm
preference,
asking you as like a fan. I'm asking you as like
a
as a
consumer.
as consumer, as someone who likes my music. I'm asking
Mm-hmm.
you, what do you?
Oh
Because
yeah.
I think that that's a big. I think that's one of the things I want to try to do is like have more dialogue with with the fans, separate from finding new ones, but the ones that are there. How do
Well,
you
and like you
cultivate
know what would
that
be, I
relationship?
think honestly would be kind of smart, and I don't know if many artists do it or how feasible it is. But like
Hmm.
if you're gonna put out a single, why and people will watch you like on Facebook Live or whatever, why not put out the single, like put it into distribution, put it in, don't promote it a week ahead because people will see it but they don't really care. Even I don't know for sure what the pre-save stuff does, but unless they're doing the pre-save link, like seeing the fact that your track's coming out in a week, a lot of people don't necessarily remember that. You know what I mean?
I agree.
They will see it when you repost it. So instead, put it into DistroKid or whatever the service you use is. Know
Hmm.
when it's coming out, like Friday or whatever, and then go live Thursday night right before you know it's gonna come out. Bullshit with your fans for an hour. Get out, just talk. Don't even say that it's for promo, and then at the end be like, oh yeah, by the way, I dropped a track. I know all you guys want to hear something new from me, so go check it out. And as a
I think
fan,
that's cool.
like that would be cool. You know what I mean? Because you're tuned into the live, you're a part of the live, and you want the track, you want to hear tracks. So I honestly think that type of stuff would be smart.
Do you watch people's lives?
I try to more often now. I
Okay.
didn't before so much, but I try to. I honestly had the most fun during someone's live during COVID though, where it was like 9 o'clock at night. He was making music. Matthew Cornwell. I don't know if you've heard of him, but
I have not.
he's pretty popular in the Binghamton area. But he was just making music, chilling at night. It was like 4 o'clock. Like nah, maybe not. It was probably 4 o'clock in the morning, New York time though, and he was like just chilling and he would make music for a couple minutes and then bullshit with everyone in the chat for like 20 minutes, and I had a lot of fun doing that and encouraged him to do it more, and he hasn't done it more, and it's something again I think like if artists
Mm.
did more of that, just small interaction, I think people are real caught up in the fact that they don't want to look like great value. It would be the easiest way for me to describe it. But like you don't want to look bad because you only have 10 people viewing. You know what I mean?
Of course,
They're
or
worried
less than
about that.
that. Like
Yeah, or
if
even
less
less.
than yeah,
But
yeah.
putting in that time with those 8 to 10 people could be worth it, because if you get a different 8 to 10 people every time and those people are willing to actually buy merchandise or stream music, or you know what I mean,
Yeah,
then
those fans are much stronger fans than a
it's a
listener.
legitimate connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it takes time, and it's something that like you have to really be comfortable with what's going on, because I see so many people go live on Instagram for 5 minutes and then they don't have anyone in there that they can talk to or anyone paying attention or whatever, or they're not even trying to talk to anyone, and so they're off immediately. And I get it, I get the feeling, because you're like, well,
Yeah.
I'm only being watched by like 3 people who aren't even saying shit, this is weird, and you click out. But if you get consistent with it, it kind of changes the game for you. So
Okay.
yeah, in terms of like actually watching lives and stuff, though, it's something I've started to do a little more now. It helps cover stuff for Upstate Aesthetic, but it can be a little weird. I get that.
Yeah, it's just I feel like if you don't have any following, it's hard to do it live. I feel like if you're following, it's not live. I don't know. I feel like it.
But at the same time, that's
I hate
almost how you
social media.
develop the following. You know what I mean? That's where it's the double-edged sword, because you get like you should already have a following, but you can create a following from essentially nothing if you just go live every day. You know what I mean? Because people will tune in. Because it happens with streamers for every medium, like gaming and other stuff. I think musicians don't tap that scene enough because we're all introverted. So, well, maybe not all of us. A lot of people in the creative scene are introverted, so they don't want to be on camera while they're making music and doing stuff and being judged in the midst of it. But people would love that. Like, people tuned into Tory Lanez all the time and he wasn't necessarily making music, but when he was doing live streams during the pandemic and even before the pandemic. And I think it happens a lot, and you see it obviously with video gaming where it's very popular. I just don't see musicians transition into that scene enough. I think it's an untapped market for artists. You don't just have to make money off of making music. You can make money off of making music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like
enough.
that. I like that. Interesting.
Like with
Very
Twitch
interesting.
and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Bigo Live.
Exactly. I have kept you for about an hour. You said let's go ahead and remind people you've got the project coming, hopefully in January.
Project coming in January.
Anything else positive planned?
I have a single dropping on October 16th.
Hey.
October 16th.
You can send me that early, bro. We'll preview it on the Cypher. That would be fun.
I got a video for it. You wanna if we do it, okay, I'll send it. You can't put the whole video on there.
All right, I'm good about that.
Yeah, we could do that. We can put like 30 seconds up there.
That would be fun.
The video, the rest of the song, 30 seconds of the video. I think that'd be fun. Yeah, it's a fun record. Shot the video in Toronto.
Oh, cool.
And so this was like I was riding through the six with my woes, and we turned on the camera. So
nice. Looking forward to that. October 16th, you said?
October 16th. Yep.
Cool. Just a couple weeks away for that. Anything else you want to promote? Otherwise, your social media and stuff like that.
All my social media is at Kory Alexander, and anything that's just Kory with a K or with a K Alexander, and yeah, it's a cool time. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
I appreciate you coming on for this conversation. I think this was a really fun, interesting conversation that realmed over quite a few different topics, which is good.
Yeah, dude. I would honestly... one day I want to like be on an episode of the podcast.
For sure.
I want to do that. So let's figure out how to make that happen. I think that'd be really fun.
Bet we will definitely get that going, bro.
I want to talk music and
talk some shit to people.
Shit.
All right. You argue with Sheridan a little bit.
You know.
I'll make sure we get a J. Cole topic on that episode.
Oh yeah,
sure.
got to. That would be a vibe. That would be a vibe and a half. Thanks, Andrew. This was really fun.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the conversation. I'm going to go ahead and close with just the end of Kory's latest song, Wreckin'. You guys can find that on streaming services. And until then, look for his track on January 16th. See ya.
All right. Thanks.